I wish it didn't take me 60 years to learn this. Have you ever looked back on your life and thought, if only I had known then what I know now? What if I told you that today, right in this very moment, is the perfect time to start the life you've always dreamed of? What if everything you've experienced, every mistake you've made, every wrong turn you've taken, was simply a stepping stone to your breakthrough? What if I told you that it's never too late to wake up, take action, and begin living with purpose? I stand before you today because for a long time I wasn't awake. I was moving through life in a fog, waiting for the perfect moment to start, waiting for the right circumstances to fall into place, waiting for someone to give me permission to step into my own greatness. I held on to regrets, to fears, to the limitations that I had been conditioned to believe. And it wasn't until I woke up to the truth that I had the power to shape my future, that I was the one holding the keys to my own life, that everything began to change. So today, I'm here to share with you the wisdom I've learned through my journey. Wisdom that, I admit, took me far too long to embrace. But here's the good news: it doesn't have to take you 60 years to learn this. You can start today, right now, with the choices you make moving forward. I wish I had learned this sooner. I wish I had woken up to my own power earlier. But the truth is, I'm here, and that's all that matters. And the same is true for you. No matter where you've been, no matter how many times you've fallen or stumbled, you have the power to take the reins of your life and create a future that's everything you've ever dreamed of. So let's talk about how you can wake up, step into your greatness, and begin living fully. Because I promise you, the life you want is already within reach. You just need to take that first step and trust that your journey is worth every step you take. Time is not infinite. We think we have more than we do. Let me tell you something that took me far too long to understand, something I now carry with both grief and grace. Time is not the forever friend we think it is. When we're young, we treat time like it's a bottomless bank account. We spend it carelessly, recklessly, like it will never run out. We make excuses, delay dreams, and push away possibilities with one phrase: someday. But what I've come to learn, and what I wish I could pour into the heart of every person listening, is this someday is a myth. It's a lie we whisper to ourselves to avoid the discomfort of action. It's a blanket we use to stay warm in our comfort zones, even when the soul is begging to rise. Time doesn't wait for us to get ready. It doesn't pause while we figure ourselves out. It keeps moving whether we move with it or not. And the tragedy is, many of us don't realize this until the clock has ticked so loudly that it drowns out our regrets. I remember waking up on certain birthdays with this sudden weight, like I had just looked up from my life and realized a decade had passed. And I hadn't done the thing I said I would. I hadn't made the call. I hadn't taken the trip. I hadn't started the book. I hadn't had the conversation. Because I thought I had more time. But you know what time really is. It's sacred. It's fleeting. And it is not promised. There is a difference between living and merely existing. And that difference lies in what we do with our time. I have met people who are 25 years old and wide awake with purpose, fire in their eyes and urgency in their hearts. And I've met people 75 years old who are just now waking up. Just now realizing how long they've been sleeping through their own lives, letting the years pass like scenery from the window of a train they never got off. We are trained to believe that we'll always have tomorrow, that we can make the call next week, that we can start the healing later, that we can chase the dream when we have a little more money or time or support or clarity. But clarity doesn't come from waiting, it comes from doing. It comes from honoring this moment as sacred, from refusing to squander the only currency that truly matters, our time. When we delay, we don't just delay action, we delay life. We push our joy further down the road. We allow fear to write chapters in our story that weren't meant to be written. And eventually, we look back and realize the cost of that delay wasn't just lost opportunities. It was a piece of ourselves we never fully let bloom. I remember talking to a woman in her late 60s at a retreat I hosted once. She said something that stuck with me. She said, "I've spent my whole life waiting for the right time. I didn't realize the right time was always now." That truth cut through me like a blade. Because that's it. That's the message. There is no magical hour when all the stars align, When you're finally ready, when fear disappears and you feel good enough. That moment doesn't arrive wrapped in a bow. You create it. You choose it. You declare, "Is my time," and you take the step. You do it afraid. You do it unready. You do it because waiting has cost you enough. Every second that passes is a second we don't get back. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to set you free. Because when you truly feel the preciousness of time, you stop playing small. You stop living for later. You stop making excuses that sound reasonable but cost you your destiny. People often ask, "When did you start really living?" And my answer is simple: when I realized time wouldn't wait for me. When I realized the clock didn't care about my doubts, my fears, my excuses. It would keep ticking whether I moved or not. So I chose to move. And every step, every stumble, every risk I took was a rebellion against the lie of later. So let me ask you this: how long have you been sleeping through your own life? How long have you been promising yourself that you'd start tomorrow? How many dreams have you buried under the weight of, "I'm too old? It's too late? Maybe someday"? How much more time are you willing to lose to the lie that you'll always have more? Because the truth is, your life is happening right now. And you, my friend, are the author. You get to decide what story gets written next. You get to take that pen out of the hands of fear and start a new chapter. But you have to start now, not next year, not after the kids are grown, not after the job settles, not after you lose the weight or gain the confidence. Now, because now is the only moment that's real, and it's enough. It's more than enough. So don't wait for life to hand you a wake-up call like mine. Don't wait until 60 to realize the time you thought you had is gone. Don't wait for a diagnosis, a heartbreak, a loss to show you what matters. You already know what matters. You just have to choose it. Every single day. If I could sit across from the younger version of myself, that version who played it safe, who stayed quiet when she should have spoken, who dimmed her light to fit into rooms not built for her, I would hold her face and whisper, "Time is your most precious gift. Don't waste it pretending you're not ready. You are ready. The life you want is waiting for you to claim it. And the only thing standing between you and it is the moment you decide time has waited long enough. You don't need permission to start living fully. You already have it. There comes a time in all of our lives, and for some of us it comes late, when we realize we've been waiting for a sign, waiting for a nod from the universe, waiting for someone to say, "Now you may begin." We wait for the green light to tell us it's safe to be bold, to speak our truth, to chase that dream, to stop surviving and start living. But here's the soul-shaking truth: you don't need anyone's permission to be fully alive. You never did. We are conditioned, many of us, especially women, to believe we need to earn the right to take up space, that we have to prove ourselves first, that we must be liked, validated, approved, perfect, that we must wait until the stars align, until we've been chosen, until someone in authority tells us we are worthy. But I need you to hear this with your whole spirit. You were born worthy. You were born ready. And the only permission you've ever needed is your own. Some of us wait our whole lives. We sit in jobs that drain us, relationships that diminish us, situations that break us, all because we're waiting for a moment that says, "Go." I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me at 20, at 30, at 40. You are the moment. You are the green light. You are the yes. No one else is coming to rescue you from your unfulfilled life. No one else is going to knock on your door and say, "Okay, it's time now, you can begin." Because that moment comes when you stop waiting and start choosing. When you wake up and say, "This life, this moment, this breath, I will not waste it waiting to be told I'm allowed to be free." I've had people stand up at events and ask me with tears in their eyes, "How do I know if I'm ready?" And I tell them, you know you're ready when the pain of staying stuck starts to outweigh the fear of moving forward. That's it. There is no certification that says you are finally worthy of your dreams. There is no official approval stamped on your heart that says you are allowed to begin again. Your life is your authority. Your soul is your compass. Your dreams are your birthright. Let me say that again: your dreams are your birthright. Do you hear that? That means the vision in your heart, that whisper in your spirit, that longing that keeps tugging at your chest when you try to silence it. It's not random. It's not a mistake, it's your truth calling you home. But as long as you keep waiting for someone else to confirm it, you'll keep missing the life that's meant for you. It took me years to stop asking for permission to be great, to stop apologizing for wanting more, to stop shrinking so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable around my light. But when I stopped waiting, everything changed, because permission doesn't come from people, it comes from power. And that power is already inside you. You have to decide, are you going to live your life like a question mark or an exclamation point? Because people will try to make you doubt. The world will give you reasons to hesitate. But your job, your calling, is to stand in your truth with boldness and say, I am not here to play small. I am not here to be silent. I am not here to be overlooked. I am here to live fully, deeply, beautifully, and I don't need anyone's permission to do that. And let's talk about what living fully actually means. It doesn't mean being loud or famous or wildly successful by the world's standards. It means being aligned. It means waking up every day and choosing to show up for yourself, for your purpose, for your joy. It means honoring your voice even when it shakes. It means allowing yourself to feel, to risk, to fail, to rise. It means not hiding behind roles, responsibilities, or what others expect from you. It means living like you own your life, because you do. There's a quiet revolution that happens inside when you stop asking, am I allowed? And start saying, I'm doing this anyway. It doesn't mean you won't be afraid, but it means you won't let fear make the decisions anymore. It means you stop waiting for the right time, the right people, the right circumstances, and you start showing up as the right person for yourself. I want to speak directly to the part of you that's still waiting, the part that's sitting in the back row of your own life, the part that believes maybe one day you'll be good enough, smart enough, brave enough to finally do the thing. That version of you, that voice of doubt, it's not telling you the truth. That voice was trained by a world that benefits from your hesitation. But your truth, the deep, sacred, unshakable truth, is that you are already enough. You are already whole, and you are already allowed. You are allowed to be powerful. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to leave what no longer serves you. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to begin again, and again, and again. So don't wait for permission to be the person you were born to be. Don't wait for applause to validate your courage. Don't wait for perfect conditions to start writing your story. Write it messy. Write it scared. Write it with your heart wide open. Because this is your life, and no one else gets to live it for you. And if you've waited, if you've lost years to fear or doubt or trying to be what someone else needed, that's okay. Grace meets you exactly where you are. You don't have to carry shame for how long it took. All that matters is what you do now. Give yourself the permission you've been waiting for. Give yourself the life you've been dreaming about. You are not waiting anymore. You are waking. Fear is a thief. It steals decades if you let it. Fear. Let's talk about it. Not the kind that protects you from danger. I'm not talking about the instinct that tells you not to touch fire or walk into traffic. I'm talking about the kind of fear that lives inside your mind. The one that whispers, you're not good enough. The one that says, they'll laugh at you. The one that tells you, stay safe, stay small, stay invisible. That fear is a liar, and worse, it's a thief. It steals moments, it steals opportunities, it steals years. And if you're not careful, it'll steal your whole life. I wish someone had looked me in the eyes when I was younger and said, you are going to feel fear. You are going to hear it screaming in your head. That don't you dare let it make your decisions for you. Because fear isn't something you overcome once and then move on from. No, fear is persistent. It doesn't knock once and leave. It shows up every time you're about to grow. Every time you're on the edge of change. Every time you step toward the thing you really want, it's there. And the tragedy is, most people think that fear means stop. But really, fear is just a sign that you're doing something meaningful. Fear stole years from me. Years of silence. Years of playing small. Years of not saying what I really felt, of not asking for what I deserved, of not going after what I wanted. And I didn't even realize it was fear. It sounded so rational. It sounded like, no's not the right time. Or you should be grateful for what you have. Or maybe later when you're more qualified. Fear knows how to disguise itself. It'll dress up like wisdom. It'll wear the mask of humility. It'll pretend it's looking out for you. But don't be fooled. That voice is not your protector. It's your prison. And here's the most heartbreaking part: fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers so gently, so sweetly, you mistake it for love. Don't go after that dream. It says, you might fail. And because you believe that failure would mean you're not enough, you listen. And just like that, another year goes by. Another dream is shelved. Another piece of your potential is locked away. But let me ask you this: what if failure isn't the enemy? What if staying stuck, staying unfulfilled, is worse than any failure you could ever experience? Because fear might keep you safe, but it also keeps you empty. You trade your aliveness for comfort. You trade your power for predictability. You trade the life you could have for the life you settled for. And years later, when the noise quiets and you're left with your own reflection, you realize it wasn't the world that held you back. It was fear. And you let it. You know what fear doesn't want you to know? That once you move through it, it loses its power. That you can feel afraid and still do it anyway. That courage isn't about the absence of fear. It's about the decision to rise, even while it's still there. Every courageous thing I've ever done, I've done with fear sitting right beside me. Fear doesn't go away. But your relationship to it can change. I want to invite you into a new way of thinking. What if fear wasn't a stop sign, but a signal? A signal that you're touching the edge of transformation. That you're stepping into the unknown, the very place where growth lives. What if instead of backing away from fear, you leaned in and said, "Thank you for showing me this matters." Because here's the truth: everything you want lives on the other side of fear. That new career, on the other side of fear. That conversation that sets you free, on the other side of fear. That book inside you, that business, that love, all waiting beyond the wall fear built. And you have the power to tear it down, one brick at a time. Now, let me be real with you. Fear doesn't leave quietly. It'll throw a fit. It'll scream louder the closer you get to your truth. But that's how you know you're getting warmer. That's how you know you're on the right path. The more afraid you feel, the more likely it is that what you're doing matters. I remember a moment when I was offered something that felt too big for me. My mind said, "You're not ready. You'll mess it up. They'll see you're a fraud." That voice was loud. And I almost said no. I almost let fear steal that moment from me. But something deep inside, something wiser, stronger, truer, whispered, "Do it anyway." So I said yes. You know what happened? I grew into the version of myself I didn't even know I was capable of becoming. That's what happens when you stop letting fear lead. You evolve. You expand. You step into the sacred space between who you've been and who you're meant to be. And you realize fear was never the truth. You are the truth. So if you're reading this and you're afraid, good. That means you're alive. That means you're standing on the edge of something real. But don't let fear steal another minute. Don't let it keep you quiet, small, waiting. You've waited long enough. You've played it safe long enough. You've let that voice dictate your story long enough. This is your moment to take the pen back, to write a new chapter, to say, "I hear you, fear," but you don't get to drive anymore. Let fear ride in the back seat if it must, but you take the wheel. Because this is your life, and you deserve to live it fully, not fearfully. Comfort zones are beautiful places where nothing grows. There's something so seductive about comfort. It wraps around you like a warm blanket, familiar, soothing, safe. You know what to expect in your comfort zone. You know how the story goes. No surprises, no risks, no failures. But here's the great contradiction: the comfort zone might feel safe, but it slowly starves your spirit. It's the place where your potential goes to sleep. And if you stay there too long, it becomes a cage disguised as a home. I want you to pause and really sit with this. Just because something feels good doesn't mean it's good for you. Comfort is not the same as alignment. Familiar is not the same as fulfilling. And ease can be dangerous when it becomes your goal instead of your guide. Because the truth is, nothing meaningful, not real growth, not transformation, not impact, happens inside that padded circle we call comfort. I lived in my comfort zone for years. And let me tell you, from the outside it looked successful. It looked polished. It looked like everything was fine. But inside I was restless, hungry, unfulfilled. because I knew deep down I had more to give, more to say, more to be. But stepping outside that line terrified me. Why? Because growth requires discomfort. And no one tells you how lonely, how messy, how uncertain that space between your comfort zone and your calling can feel. But here's what I know now: that space, the stretch, the ache, the leap, that's where you become. That's where you stop being who you've always been and start becoming who you were meant to be. And yes, it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. It's the discomfort that shapes you, that forges strength, that reveals resilience, that builds a self-trust no easy path ever could. Think about nature. Think about a seed it has to break to grow. It has to push through the dirt, stretch beyond its shell, reach for the light, all while blind and buried. But that's the process. And you are no different. If you never let yourself break a little, stretch a little, leave what's familiar, you'll never bloom. And let's be honest, the comfort zone isn't always comfortable, is it? Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes it's a job you hate, a relationship you've outgrown, a habit that numbs you, a routine that keeps you small. But you stay, not because it fulfills you, but because it's what you know. And the mind loves the known, even when the soul is screaming for more. You know how I finally knew it was time to leave my comfort zone? When staying started to feel like self-betrayal. When I could no longer pretend that I was fine. When the ache of staying the same became louder than the fear of change. That moment, that awakening, that's sacred. And when it comes, you have two choices. You can shrink back into what's familiar, or you can step forward into what's possible. But make no mistake, stepping forward doesn't mean you'll feel ready. Most of the time, you won't. Growth doesn't ask if you're comfortable. It asks if you're committed. It asks if you're willing to risk discomfort for the sake of your destiny. If you're willing to feel uncertain, awkward, vulnerable, exposed for the sake of a deeper truth. It asks if you trust yourself enough to keep walking even when the path isn't lit all the way. That's the thing. Growth doesn't come with guarantees. There are no signposts that say, this is the right decision, or this risk will work out perfectly. All you have is your inner knowing, your soul's compass. And that's all you need. Because that whisper inside you, that longing for something more, it's not random. It's not fantasy. It's your spirit calling you out of the comfort zone and into your purpose. And let me tell you something else, leaving the comfort zone isn't a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. It's a habit. Every time you choose growth over fear, truth over ease, alignment over approval, you expand your world. You expand your power. You expand your life. So ask yourself this: what have I been calling comfort? That's actually been keeping me stuck. What parts of me are ready to grow if I just stop clinging to what feels safe? What version of myself is waiting on the other side of this fear? Because I promise you, the version of you that's waiting beyond the comfort zone, she's wiser, she's stronger, she's free. And once you meet her, you'll wonder why you waited so long to leave. Let's not romanticize the comfort zone. Let's not confuse it with peace. True peace doesn't come from staying still. It comes from being in integrity with your truth. And sometimes your truth will lead you straight into the unknown. But that's where the magic is. That's where the miracles happen. That's where you grow into someone you can be proud of. Not just someone who made it through, but someone who became. So here's your invitation. Step out, even if it's shaky, even if it's small. One step is all it takes to break the cycle. One step is all it takes to prove to yourself that you are more than your limits. Because you are. You are not here to live the same year 80 times and call it a life. You are here to evolve. And every time you choose growth over comfort, you say yes to the life you were born to live. Time doesn't wait for your clarity. Move even when you're uncertain. There's this beautiful myth so many of us cling to. The myth that one day it will all make sense. That we'll wake up and just know. That clarity will arrive like a sunrise, sweeping away the shadows and doubts, and we'll feel perfectly ready, perfectly certain, perfectly fearless. But here's the truth: life eventually teaches us that day doesn't come. Not all at once. Not in the way we imagine. Clarity isn't a lightning bolt. It's a candle you carry in the dark, flickering, fragile, but just enough to take the next step. And yet we wait. We sit still, waiting for a sign, for confidence, for a plan that guarantees the outcome. We convince ourselves that I just need a little more time. Or I'll start once I'm sure. But what we don't see, what I didn't see for years, is that time keeps moving, whether we do or not. It doesn't pause while we figure things out. It doesn't slow down for our fear. The world keeps spinning, opportunities keep passing, and every moment we delay is a moment we never get back. I want to tell you something that took me years, decades. To learn, you don't need to have it all figured out to move forward. You don't need a 10-step plan or a flawless blueprint. You just need a willingness to start. Even if you're scared, even if it's messy, even if you don't know what's on the other side, because movement, any movement, is what creates momentum. And momentum is what eventually leads to clarity. So many of us are afraid of making the wrong move that we make no move at all. But indecision is still a decision. And often, it's the most costly one. Because while you're sitting on the fence of your own life, straddling your potential and your fear, the clock keeps ticking. And at some point, you have to ask yourself what's more painful: the risk of getting it wrong, or the regret of never trying at all. I've sat in rooms with women in their 60s, their 70s, even their 80s, tears streaming down their faces as they said, "I knew I should have done it. I knew it back then. But I waited. And now it's too late." And let me tell you, those aren't tears of failure. They're tears of knowing, of realizing they didn't need to wait to feel ready. That ready never would have come. That if they'd just moved with the courage they had, however small, their lives might have taken a very different shape. You don't want that kind of ache in your spirit. That quiet grief that comes from knowing you let time slip through your fingers, waiting for perfect conditions that never arrived. So I want to ask you, what are you postponing in the name of clarity? What dream, what decision, what desire have you put on hold because you're not sure yet? And what would it feel like to just move? To take one small action, one imperfect step. Because when you move, even while you're uncertain, something powerful happens. You shift from fear into faith. You show the universe that you're willing. You open yourself up to new information, new guidance, new energy that only reveals itself after the leap. That's the thing. Clarity often comes in motion, not before it. You don't think your way into a new life. You live your way into it. One brave, messy, human step at a time. And let me say this because I know someone reading this needs to hear it. It's okay not to have the answers. It's okay to still be figuring it out. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply human. And humans grow through movement, through experience, through falling and rising and trying again. There's wisdom that only lives on the other side of action, and you won't access it until you go. Think about the most powerful moments of your life, the real turning points. Were you 100% certain before you made that choice? Or did you step out on faith, heart pounding, breath shaking, hoping it would work but having no guarantees? That's what real transformation looks like. Not confidence, courage. Confidence is what people see on the outside. But courage is what happens on the inside, in the quiet, in the in-between. In the moments when your hands are trembling but you do it anyway. And every time you move through that space, the uncertain space, you get stronger. You start to trust yourself more. You start to realize that you can survive discomfort, survive risk, survive not having all the answers. And with that self-trust comes a new kind of clarity, not the certainty of knowing exactly what's next, but the deeper clarity of knowing you'll figure it out when you get there. That's the kind of clarity that changes lives. Not external, not circumstantial, but internal, rooted, grounded, sacred. So here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to wait for permission, and you don't have to wait for clarity. You are allowed to move before the map is complete. You are allowed to trust the pull in your gut, the nudge in your heart, the vision that only you can see. And you are allowed to get it wrong. Because there's no such thing as wasted movement when you're walking toward truth. Stop waiting for the fog to clear. Start walking with your light. It may not light up the whole path, but it will be enough to keep going. And sometimes the boldest, most beautiful thing you can do for your life is take one step forward. Even when you're not sure where it will lead. That's how you meet your life. That's how you wake up. That's how you stop watching time slip away and start living with it, in it, alongside it, fully, fearlessly, and free. You're not too old, and it's not too late. That's just fear wearing a mask And one of the most persistent lies we're told, and sadly, often tell ourselves, is that if we haven't figured it out by a certain age, then it's over. That the window has closed, that we missed our chance, that dreaming is for the young, changing is for the brave, and it's just too late for us now. But let me tell you something with every ounce of fire in my soul, that is not the truth. That is fear dressed up in shame, draped in culture whispering in your ear like it knows better. But it doesn't. It never did. We've been fed this timeline: go to school by this age, get the job by that one, marry, succeed, retire, all in this neat little order. But life is not a spreadsheet. It doesn't move on a schedule. It unfolds. It blooms. And sometimes the most incredible chapters don't start until you've already lived through a few volumes. Sometimes your soul doesn't even wake up until you're 40, 50, 60, or beyond. And when it does, that is your real beginning. I've met women who didn't find their voice until their kids were grown. Men who didn't write a single word until retirement, and then went on to write best-selling books. I've watched people reinvent themselves in their 70s, fall in love in their 80s, start new businesses, passions, paths when the world told them they should be winding down. And you know what they all had in common? They stopped listening to the voice that said it was too late and started listening to the one deep inside them that said, and isn't that what really matters? Not the time on the clock, not the number on the calendar, but the aliveness in your soul. Because that spark, that yearning for more, that's not just nostalgia. That's not just thinking. That's your spirit trying to breathe, trying to stretch, trying to live. We're so afraid of looking foolish, of starting over, of being a beginner again in a world that worships youth and speed. But hear me, there is no shame in beginning again. There is only courage. Do you know how brave it is to say, this life I built, it doesn't fit anymore? To choose truth over tradition, to choose growth over comfort. That kind of bravery should be celebrated, honored, admired, because it means you're still listening. It means your soul hasn't gone numb. It means you're still alive. So I want to say this directly to the part of you that feels behind. You are not too old. You are not too late. You didn't miss the boat. You are the boat. You are the vehicle through which new dreams will travel. You are the home where wisdom and wonder collide. And your journey, as winding, as slow, as unconventional as it might feel, is divine. It is right on time. You know what's really too late? Never starting. Letting the fear of judgment outweigh the desire to grow. Believing the calendar gets to decide when you stop evolving. That's the real loss. That's the real tragedy. Because life doesn't care how old you are when you bloom. It only cares that you bloom. And you still can. Think about it. Would you tell a flower it's wrong for blooming in October instead of April? Would you shame a sunrise for coming a little later in winter? No. So why do we treat our own timing like it's a mistake? Your growth is not on anyone else's timeline. Your story is not late. It's unfolding. And there is still so much unwritten. There is still so much possible. And let's not forget the gift of age, the power of lived experience. You're not starting from scratch. You're starting from wisdom, from resilience, from 100 quiet lessons that have shaped your strength. That's not a weakness. That's your superpower. You've survived. You've endured. You've learned. And now you get to use it all, not just to exist, but to thrive. You want to paint. Start today. You want to go back to school. Start today. You want to walk away from a life that looks good on paper, but feels hollow in your heart. You get to do that. You have the right to change. You have the right to begin again. You have the right to listen to your life and follow where it's leading. Because when you finally drop the lie that it's too late, you unlock a kind of freedom that people spend their whole lives chasing. You realize you're not behind, you're simply beginning now. And that no is sacred. It's never too small, never too late, never not enough. It's everything. So take the class, start the project, write the book, speak the truth, make the move. Because there is a version of you waiting on the other side of that live, a version who is vibrant, fulfilled, alive, and she doesn't care how old you are. She just wants you to show up. You are allowed to live a life that looks nothing like the one you imagined and still be wildly proud of it. You are allowed to dream again, to rise again, to love again. You are allowed to want more, and you are allowed to have it, not someday, now. Don't let fear disguised as logic tell you the story is over. Because I promise you, if there is breath in your body, there is still story left to write. Waiting for others to change will keep you stuck. Take responsibility for your own healing. Let me tell you a hard, holy truth: the moment you stop waiting for other people to apologize, change, understand, approve, or show up the way you wish they would, that is the moment you begin to set yourself free. That's the moment healing begins. That's when you stop dragging around the weight of expectation, the ache of unmet needs, and start reclaiming your power. Not because others changed, but because you did. I wish someone had told me earlier that healing isn't about fixing what other people broke. It's about deciding you're no longer going to let that pain run your life. Because if you spend your days waiting for the person who hurt you to say, "I'm sorry," you might wait forever. If you keep hoping that the person who abandoned you will finally turn around and love you the way they should have, you may miss your whole life staring at a closed door. I know how easy it is to blame, to replay the betrayals, to pick at the wounds, to hold court in the courtroom of your mind where you're right and they're wrong. But even when it's true, even when your pain is justified, the longer you stay there, the more stuck you become. Because healing isn't about assigning guilt. It's about claiming freedom. And listen, this doesn't mean what happened was okay. This doesn't mean the pain wasn't real. It means you're no longer giving it the keys to your future. You're choosing peace over bitterness. You're choosing growth over control. You're choosing to rise. Let me say this clearly: you are allowed to be angry. You are allowed to grieve. You are allowed to feel everything you feel, fully, deeply, honestly. But you are also allowed to let it go. Not because they deserved your forgiveness, but because you deserve your freedom. We don't talk enough about the courage it takes to do your inner work when the world tells you to stay mad. We don't talk about how lonely it can feel to choose healing when everyone around you is choosing blame. But real healing, real, soul-deep, liberating healing, it's not a performance. It's a process. And it starts the day you look in the mirror and say, "It's not my fault what happened, but it is my responsibility to heal from it." And that word, responsibility, it scared me for a long time, because I thought it meant guilt. I thought it meant blame. But what it really means is this: you have the ability to respond. You get to choose what you carry and what you lay down. You get to decide what you make of your pain. You can turn it into armor that weighs you down or into wings that help you rise. You are not broken. You are not ruined. You are becoming. Your healing doesn't have to be poetic. It doesn't have to look like meditation and yoga and ocean retreats. Sometimes healing looks like telling the truth. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like crying in your car and then walking into work anyway. Sometimes it's messy and raw and unpretty. And that's okay. You don't have to heal beautifully. You just have to heal. And let me say this to the part of you that still wants someone else to get it. Before you can move on, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they're not capable of the accountability you deserve. Sometimes they're too deep in their own wounds to see how they hurt you. And sometimes they just don't want to change. But here's what's radical and powerful and freeing: they don't have to. You don't need their growth for you to grow. You don't need their change for you to rise. You don't need their permission to move on. One of the most transformative choices you'll ever make is to stop waiting for the people who hurt you to heal you. That's not their job. And honestly, they're not qualified for it. Healing is an inside job. And when you finally decide to stop waiting and start working on your heart, your peace, your patterns, your beliefs, you become unstoppable. So ask yourself, where have I been waiting for someone else to make it right before I let myself feel okay? Where have I been holding on to pain like a trophy? Proof that I was right, but still stuck in the past. Where am I still letting someone else's actions define my worth? Because here's the truth: what they did may have shaped your story, but it doesn't get to write your future. You do. Every time you choose compassion over resentment, every time you choose healing over hardness, every time you choose to do the work, even when nobody's watching, you're rewriting your life. That kind of healing, it radiates, it liberates, it breaks generational curses, it shifts legacies. It says, I may have been wounded, but I refuse to live wounded. I may have been hurt, but I will not pass that pain on. And let me just honor you here, because healing is not the easy road. It's not glamorous. It doesn't always come with applause or recognition, but it is holy work, sacred work. It's the work that brings you back home to yourself. And once you come home to yourself, once you really see your own worth, your own strength, your own light, nobody can take that from you. So don't wait for the apology. Don't wait for the validation. Don't wait for them to see your worth. See it yourself. Honor it yourself. Heal for you. And trust that everything you need to live a life of wholeness, peace, and purpose, it's already inside you. You just have to stop waiting and start walking. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Done is better than perfect. Let's just call it like it is. Perfection is a trap. It's a cage dressed up as high standards. It's fear in a glittery disguise whispering, "You're almost good enough, but not quite." And for years, decades even, I let that voice dictate the pace of my life. I thought I was striving for excellence. I thought I was just not ready yet. But what I was really doing, I was hiding. I was procrastinating. I was shrinking behind the illusion of perfect. And let me say this as gently and truthfully as I can: perfect does not exist. It is a mirage. The closer you think you're getting to it, the further away it moves. It's that voice that says, "Don't start the business until the logo is flawless. Don't release the book until every sentence is poetic. Don't speak up until you can say it without shaking. Don't love until you've healed every single scar." And you know what happens? You wait. You stall. You rob yourself of growth, opportunity, and joy, all in the name of something you'll never actually reach. It took me a long time to realize this, but done is better than perfect. Done is where the learning lives. Done is where the feedback happens. Done is where momentum builds. You cannot grow what you never begin. You can't evolve something that stays locked inside your head. So many dreams die inside notebooks and journals because we think the world only wants polished, shiny, flawless. That the world, real people, they want real. They want truth. They want to see themselves in your imperfection. And let me just say, perfectionism doesn't make you more worthy. It doesn't make you more lovable. It doesn't make you more impressive. It just makes you more exhausted, more disconnected, more anxious. Because you've created a standard no one, not even you, can maintain. You become a prisoner of your own expectations. We weren't meant to be perfect. We were meant to progress, to evolve, to stretch and stumble and course correct and try again. That's how nature works. That's how growth happens. Trees don't grow straight up in a perfect line. They bend toward the light. They lose leaves, they survive storms, they keep reaching. And you, my love, are no different. Somewhere along the way, many of us learned that love and approval were tied to how well we performed, that mistakes made us weak, that messiness made us unworthy. But those are lies. Lies rooted in fear, passed down by systems that value appearance over authenticity. And if we want to wake up in this life, really wake up, we have to start unlearning those lies. We have to give ourselves permission to be messy, to be works in progress, to launch the thing before we're ready, to speak even if our voice trembles, to write even if the grammar isn't perfect, to begin even when we're scared, because action creates clarity. Action builds confidence. Action is where the magic lives. And let me also say this: perfectionism doesn't only keep you from creating, it keeps you from connecting. Because when you're always trying to show up as polished, composed, flawless, you miss out on intimacy. You miss out on being seen, truly seen, for who you really are. People don't connect to your perfection. They connect to your realness, your vulnerability, your humanity. That's what invites people in. That's what inspires. That's what heals. I remember sitting on stages thinking I had to get every word right, every story smooth, every delivery perfect. And the more I chased that perfection, the more disconnected I felt. But the moments that moved people, the moments that stayed with them, were the ones where I paused, where I cried, where I stumbled, where I told the truth instead of reading a script. Those were the real moments. And that's what we're all hungry for. Not the performance, but the presence. So let me ask you, what are you holding back because it's not perfect yet? What dream, what gift, what truth are you keeping on the shelf, waiting for it to be polished, refined, flawless? What would it feel like to just release it as it is? To show up as you are, to trust that your voice, your work, your heart are already enough, even in progress. Because every masterpiece started as a mess. Every legend once fumbled. Every expert was once a beginner. You can't skip the awkward phase. You can't bypass the vulnerable middle. And that's okay. You're not meant to. You're meant to live through it. And here's the real truth. Your not good enough version is already someone else's breakthrough. Someone out there needs to see you trying. Not winning, not arriving, but trying. They need your imperfect story because it gives them permission to live theirs. You holding back doesn't protect your reputation. It robs the world of your light. So let go of the fantasy of perfect. Let go of the lie that says you have to wait. Start where you are with what you have. Use the voice you've got even if it shakes. Share the story, even if it's unfinished. That's where your power is, in your willingness to be seen, not as flawless, but as real. And don't just hear this, live it. Try this. The next time you find yourself stalling, stuck in analysis paralysis, ask yourself, what would I do if I wasn't trying to be perfect? Then go do that. Go be that. Show up as that. That's where your real life is waiting. Progress over perfection. Every time. That's not just a mindset. It's a way of being. A way of walking through life with open hands instead of clenched fists. A way of embracing your own becoming, one beautiful, imperfect step at a time. The people you surround yourself with shape your reality. Choose wisely. There's an ancient truth that says, you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I know that sounds simplistic, maybe even cliché, but don't dismiss it so quickly. It's real. It's powerful. It's not just a passing idea. It's a cornerstone of how we live, grow, and evolve. If you want to know where you're headed in life, take a look at the people around you. The ones you laugh with, cry with, share secrets with, dream with. The ones whose energy fills your space and whose words fill your mind. They are shaping you every single day. And this is where the hard truth comes in. Some of us are holding on to relationships that drain us, limit us, and keep us small. We are tethered to people who aren't nourishing our souls, aren't pushing us to grow, aren't holding us accountable to the best versions of ourselves. And we do it because we feel obligated, because we've been told we should be loyal, because we're afraid of being alone. But let me say this to you with all my heart, you are not obligated to stay in relationships that keep you stagnant. You are not required to let people hold you back from your greatness. Your energy, your spirit are precious. Don't waste them on people who don't recognize your worth. Now, I know that may sound harsh. I know it can feel uncomfortable. But I also know this. We can't evolve if we stay in environments that don't evolve. Growth requires a certain kind of space. And the people in that space, they matter. They either uplift you or they drain you. They either see your potential or they diminish it. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of energy am I surrounding myself with? Is it pushing me toward the life I want, or is it keeping me stuck where I am? I've seen it time and time again. People hold themselves back because they feel bound to friends, family, or colleagues who don't believe in them. I've seen dreams die because someone was told, that's impossible, or you can't do that, or don't get too big for your britches. It's easy to let those voices become your truth. But I'm here to tell you, those are not your truths. They are just projections of their own fears and limitations. And if you're letting those voices shape your reality, you're doing yourself a disservice. I've had to make some tough decisions in my life about who gets to walk with me on my journey. Not because I don't love those people, but because I had to protect my own growth. I had to surround myself with people who saw me, not just as I was, but as I could be. People who challenged me, supported me, and stretched me. People who would say, you've got this, even when I wasn't sure. People who made me believe in myself, even when I doubted my own strength. And I'll tell you this, when you make the decision to let go of toxic energy, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it hurts, you create room for new, powerful relationships to enter your life. You create space for the kind of connections that nourish your soul, the kind that inspire you to rise, to step into your power, to show up fully in your own life. But let me be clear, this isn't just about cutting people off. This isn't about being cold or heartless. It's about boundaries. It's about knowing that you can love people from a distance, but still protect your peace. It's about recognizing that some people are not capable of supporting your highest self. and learning to let them go with love. It's about knowing that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's approval or permission. The truth is, you deserve to be surrounded by people who are living in alignment with their own truth. People who are working on their own growth, who are passionate, who are kind, who are brave enough to dream big. You deserve to be with those who light a fire in you, not extinguish it. And when you start choosing wisely, when you begin to place yourself in the company of those who see the best in you and push you to be better, your whole life will begin to shift. Ask yourself, are the people in my life elevating me or keeping me small? Are they bringing out the best in me or encouraging my worst fears? Do I feel energized after spending time with them or drained? If you're being honest with yourself, it's not always about quantity. It's about quality. It's about who you are becoming because of the relationships you have. I want you to understand that choosing the right people is not just about picking people who make you feel good in the moment. It's about choosing people who make you feel empowered, who see your greatness and won't let you forget it. It's about cultivating relationships that challenge you to rise to your highest potential. That's the kind of support you need in your life if you're going to create something meaningful, if you're going to live a life that matters. And here's the thing, you don't have to do this alone. There is a tribe out there for you. People who see your vision, who believe in your mission, who want to walk alongside you as you reach for your dreams. But in order to find them, you have to be willing to let go of those who are pulling you away from your purpose. You have to be willing to step into spaces that stretch you, that make you uncomfortable, and that encourage you to become more than you've ever been before. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what about family? What about the people who have always been there? And listen, I hear you. Family is complicated. But family, too, is not defined by blood. It's defined by love, respect, and mutual growth. If your family, or anyone in your life, is holding you back, it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to prioritize your well-being, even if that means taking a step back. You have every right to protect your peace, your vision, and your life's mission. The people who walk with you should not just be comfortable with who you are. They should be excited about who you are becoming. And when you start to choose those people, when you surround yourself with those who support you, uplift you, and challenge you, something miraculous will happen. You'll begin to believe in yourself in a whole new way. You'll start to rise higher. You'll start to show up for your life in ways you never have before. You'll stop settling for less because you'll know deep in your bones that you are meant for more. So take a look at your circle. Who's lifting you up? Who's empowering your journey? Who's adding to your growth, your light, your love? And who's draining your energy, feeding you fear, and keeping you stuck? The choice is yours. And I promise you, when you choose wisely, everything in your life will begin to change. Because the people you surround yourself with shape your reality, and your reality is your power. You can't change the past, but you can shape your future. Take full responsibility for where you are now and where you're going. This is the hardest truth, and also the most liberating one. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. Not because everything has gone perfectly, not because you haven't made mistakes, but because you are here, in this moment, with everything you've learned, everything you've survived, and everything you've yet to discover. I spent so much of my life trapped in the past. I replayed moments that couldn't be undone. I held on to old wounds, old stories, old regrets, thinking that if I just thought about them long enough, I could somehow rewrite them. I wanted to turn back time, change things I couldn't control, fix the mistakes that had already been made. And the truth is, I was wasting my energy. Because the past doesn't need to be fixed. The past needs to be released. You see, your past is your teacher, not your master. It's not here to define your future. It's here to inform your growth. Every mistake, every setback, every moment of doubt, it's all part of your evolution. And if you're still looking back, waiting for a time machine to undo what's been done, you're missing the magic of right now. The power of the present moment is that you get to choose right here, right now, how you show up. And that choice, it shapes your future. And let me tell you, there is so much freedom in that. The moment you realize you can't change what's behind you, but you can absolutely control what comes next, you step into your own power. You reclaim the steering wheel of your life. You take responsibility not just for your actions, but for the direction you're heading in. That's the key. Responsibility doesn't mean blame. It means empowerment. You are not responsible for everything that's ever happened to you, but you are absolutely responsible for how you move forward from here. Here's where it gets real. If you want to create a future that's different from your past, you have to make different choices. And those choices start right now in this very moment. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel more ready. The moment is now. This very second is where the future begins. And it starts with the simple act of taking responsibility for your present, for what you're thinking, for what you're doing, for the energy you're bringing into the world. And listen, I know it's easy to fall into the trap of blaming your circumstances. It's easy to say, well, if this had been different, if I'd had this opportunity, if they'd treated me differently, if I'd been born into a different situation. The if-onlys are so tempting. But those if-onlys are chains. They keep you locked in the past. And the truth is, your future is not written by what happened to you, but by what you do with what's happened. Let me break this down. If you stay stuck in the past, you'll keep repeating the same patterns. You'll stay in relationships that don't serve you. You'll keep making decisions from fear instead of faith. You'll hold on to what's familiar instead of stepping into the unknown. But if you take full responsibility for the present, you can begin to change your trajectory. You can begin to make choices that align with the future you desire. Taking responsibility for where you are now means owning your choices, owning your power, owning your vision. It's not about blaming yourself for the past. It's about empowering yourself for the future. It's saying, this is where I am, and I'm going to make this moment count. I'm going to use everything I've learned and everything I've been through to create a life that's aligned with who I'm becoming. This is the secret. Your future is not something that happens to you. It's something you create. And that creation starts with the choices you make today. The decision to get out of bed with purpose. The decision to put yourself first. The decision to say no when you need to. The decision to put in the work, to take that first step, to begin even when you don't feel ready. And yes, sometimes that means having hard conversations with yourself. Sometimes it means looking in the mirror and saying, I am where I am because of my choices. But I am also capable of making new choices that will take me somewhere else. I've had to make those hard decisions in my own life. There were times when I felt like I was drowning in the weight of my past mistakes and regrets. That the moment I realized I couldn't change any of that, that's when I was finally able to release it. I had to let go of the shoulds and could have beens and embrace what was possible in the present. And the possibilities are endless. And here's another thing, your future is not written in a straight line. It's full of twists, turns, setbacks, and breakthroughs. You will make mistakes, you will face challenges, but that's all part of it. The most important thing is that you keep moving. You keep taking responsibility for your next step. Even when you don't know where it's leading. Even when you don't know how it will work out. You keep going. You keep choosing. You keep creating. But here's the best part: when you take responsibility for your own future, you also give yourself permission to dream bigger. Because when you stop waiting for things to magically change, you start seeing the infinite opportunities in front of you. You start recognizing your potential. You start to realize that the life you want is not out of reach. It's already inside you, waiting to be claimed. It's waiting for you to take action. It's waiting for you to step up and say, I choose this. I choose the life I deserve. I choose the future I want. The past will always be there. It will always be a part of your story. But it does not define you. It does not control you. What matters now is what you do with this moment. What matters now is how you choose to move forward. And the future, your future, it's yours to create. Every single day. So take a deep breath and step into it. Step into the future that's calling you. Step into the person you were always meant to become. Because you have everything you need right now to create a life that matters. A life that is full of purpose, passion, and love. A life where you take full responsibility for where you are and where you're going. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to remember one thing: you are not defined by your past. You are not bound by the limitations that you once believed were true. The power to change, to create, and to rise is within you right now. I stand here not as someone who has all the answers, but as someone who has lived the truth I'm sharing with you. I've made the mistakes, I've been lost in fear, I've doubted myself. But I've also risen, I've learned, and I've found strength in my own story. The difference between where I was and where I am today is simple. I woke up. I decided to take action. I stopped waiting for the perfect moment and started making this moment count. And you can do the same. It's time to stop looking back at the if-onlys and start looking forward to what's possible. The world is waiting for you to step into your greatness. Your future is waiting for you to claim it. The moment you decide to wake up, to take responsibility, and to take action, your life will change forever. It doesn't matter how old you are or how many years have passed. What matters is what you do now. The dreams that once felt impossible are closer than you think, but they require one thing: your commitment. Commit to waking up to your own power. Commit to taking action, no matter how small, every single day. Commit to surrounding yourself with the energy, the people, and the mindset that will carry you toward your future. You deserve to live a life that's vibrant, full of purpose, and unapologetically your own. And the beautiful truth is you can have it. The only thing standing in your way is the decision to take that first step. So I ask you, no, I challenge you to make that decision today, right now. Wake up, step into your power, and begin the next chapter of your life with boldness, with courage, and with the unshakable belief that your best days are still ahead. The future is waiting for you. Your future is waiting for you.